Hey, welcome to Gary's Shortlist. Today we're having a chat with Sam Thiara all the way from Vancouver. Sam is the Chief Motivating Officer, as he calls himself, at Ignite the Dream Coaching and Consulting. Sam is an accomplished author of a fabulous book that we'll have a chat about. Sam is also a very sought after TED Talk speaker. I think he has a couple of TED Talks under his belt. I encourage you to sit back, have a listen to Sam Thiara. Thanks. Hey, Sam, welcome to Gary's podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. Sam Thiara, please introduce yourself. How are you going?
Things are really well. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada, and I appreciate the fact that, we can talk all the way down to Sydney, Australia at the same time and place.
It's brilliant, isn't it? And luckily we've got a terrific connection today. My dial-up seems to be working very well.
No, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. Same on this side as well. So the universe is cooperating with us today.
Yeah. And just quickly, how's COVID treating you guys over there right now?
Yeah, it's, challenges for every single person in this world, but some places are doing better than others. And over here, we, are probably in the fourth wave right now, not in the lockdown mode, but, being very cautious here in Vancouver. I think one thing that I always like to share with people as a reminder is with COVID especially, this is a really good time for us to care. And when I say care, Gary, what I mean by care is collaboration, adaptability, resilience, and empathy. Those are four things that I think we need to activate in order for us to move forward. Collaboration is this need for us to do an inventory of what we bring and what other people bring, and how do we support each other in our work. And I do this all the time with local businesses or, all the different things I do. I look to collaborate with individuals. Adaptability is, we've all had to change. And, whether it's teaching, whether it's office work, whether it's even in construction, we've all had to change the way we look at business. And change is not a comfortable thing for many people. Change has never been difficult for me. I thrive in ambiguity and uncertainty. But, when they said, okay, today we're going to go virtual, for me, it was like, okay. And then I just started on the virtual pathway. There is a need for us to be adaptable in order to ride this wave out. Resilience is the R. And resilience just means knowing that this is a marathon. This is not over next week. It's not over next month. When you build resilience in, you're prepared for the journey to go beyond instead of just focusing on the here and now. So build that resilience in. And finally, empathy. There is a need for us to show care and compassion to the people around us, whether if family members, friends, work, social gathering, it doesn't matter. Everybody is going through COVID in their own way. And empathy just means some people may be more challenged than others. We need to, again, support that piece and empathize so that we're not imposing upon them. So I think care is really important. Collaboration, adaptability, resilience, and empathy.
Yeah, look, I think that resonates with us definitely here in Sydney or New South Wales. Our state has been in a fairly hard lockdown, and of course the government have got a massive challenge in front of them, and they're managing the operational side reasonably well. It depends who you talk to, but I think the care piece, and it's one thing to say, oh, we've got access to psychologists or whatever it is to sort of tick that box, is one thing on a government level. But I think on an employer level, I think it's really interesting when we spoke earlier and you were talking about care. I guess a lot of businesses are being thrusted in this position, and are trying, to do the right things for the right reasons with their staff. And in Australia at the moment, there seems to be quite a push that if you haven't got a vaccination one or two, you're likely not to be able to go back to work, right?
Yeah.
And of course, there's some resistance from one side of the street, and then there's compliance on the other. But I would think for a lot of organisations, it's a time where they probably really need to reflect on the care component as opposed to the compliance part of it, because without the care, I think. And it's one thing an organisation saying we care. I think it's a bit more to actually show it and invest in it. And there's some companies out there I know right now in Sydney that are doing a terrific job. You know, in terms of you talk about empathy. I think I've seen seen and heard the good and the bad. And I heard a bad one the other day. I heard of a construction worker that's at a managerial level, and he took his young daughter to work in the truck, and one of the bosses pulled him up and said, "Do you think it's appropriate that you're bringing your daughter to the work site?" And he said, "Oh, look, my wife is trying to juggle her work. I've got another daughter that's at the grandparents. It was either she came with me or I didn't arrive. You know, what do we do?" And it brought about that conversation. And I thought it was a bit harsh. I thought that conversation, that person actually rang me and was quite upset about it and just used me as a bit of a sounding board. And my immediate reaction was, wow, that's pretty tough to say something like that in this environment. If it had been in another environment, being no COVID or no concern about that stuff, I think it might have been in context. But I thought that's pretty. It's not showing much empathy there.
No, and that's where I think, considering that, again, the person who made the comment in the first place, what are they going through at the same time? Are they going through a difficult time? And as a result, that's the comments that they made as a result of it. Or maybe they're just not empathetic to the situation. And that's even where I'm, talking to individuals, or, if I'm having a meeting with someone and, the kids are in the background, I'm like, you know what, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. You just sort of work around what's there. I mean, even for me, because I teach in university, our house was going through major renovations during COVID. So guess where I was? I was doing lectures on top of the washing machine with all the hammering and everything. And my students had a good laugh about it, because they were like, I don't think I've ever seen a lecture delivered on top of a washing machine with all this construction going on. And we go through it all. I mean, but that's the whole idea. But I needed their support as much as they needed my support.
Yeah. So for organisations, and I know that you've got a very robust model here, but for organisations listening right now that are, we're just tweaking that, or just, bringing some awareness to this care factor, and I guess, can they do it better? Are there any just top half dozen dot points you could give them?
Oh, totally. Listen to people. Like, I think sometimes what happens is people feel like they're being imposed upon or directed. Just even today, I needed support with regards to my marketing, for example. And I reached out to a former student who's looking for an opportunity, has been struggling looking for an opportunity. So I'm going to hire her for 3 months, 15 hours a week, and pay her. And I told her, I said, but when you're working with me, it's not working for me. I want you to provide me your ideas, your thoughts, because those are going to be valuable to me. And I think from an employer standpoint, talk to the people around you, and even learn about them even more. Like, what is it that, then what they're going through and some of the challenges that they're encountering. So listening and having this conversation, I think, is really important. Equally, at the same time, make it inclusive. In other words, in the construction industry, so maybe managers, senior managers, they've got the experience, many of them years and spent in the construction industry. But you know what? The people on the ground level doing the hard labor and the hard work at this point in time, I always say, some of the best ideas come from them because they're right there. And you know what? Listen and talk to them. And it's also, the other one is about problems and problem solving. It's easy for people to tell me what the problem is. I don't dwell on the problem. I want to know what's the solution. Let's collectively work together to resolve this issue. How do we work through it instead of just sitting there and saying it's a problem and, you know, letting someone else solve it for you. Activate it and look that a problem is actually has an opportunity in it in order to realize a solution. But talk to people and come to solutions. I think care just becomes a very simple overarching piece. And however you feel that you need to collaborate, however you feel that adaptability may work for you, the resilience, whether it's for you or the people around you, and empathizing so that, and reinforcing the empathy on the other people as well, to say, you know, I may be going through a bit of a challenging time. Let's say, for example, you know, I've been working from home. I'm, you know, the family's with me. I've got 2 kids, you know, it's not easy. And, you know, just even sharing that. And then people are like, okay, so, you know, the empathy then comes forward so they can better appreciate and understand your situation as well. I think those are critical components.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, Sam. As you were talking, then I was thinking about the care. I was thinking about care, and I was thinking about my previous life as in safety management, and it actually applies in the same way. You're talking to, you know, you spoke about, you know, engaging with people on the ground floor and getting their open, honest feedback and all that kind of stuff. That is 101, you know, good safety management, as opposed to the telling piece, you know, about you're going to do this and you're going to get the jab and you're going to fill out this form and you're going to do this and that's really interesting. Really.
Well, and Gary, if I might be able to add as well, one thing that I often share with organizations that I work with is this concept of perspectives. And it's interesting because we all have our perspectives and we see them as our own truths because of, you know, our cultural background, our social media background, everything makes our perspectives. And I do an exercise, and I encourage people to do this exercise, whether in construction, professional, doesn't matter. I put a picture of the ocean up when I'm doing these sessions, and I say one word and only one word to the audience. Describe what you see. And then I go around the room and people will say deep, ocean, like blue, serene, calm, dangerous, sharks, mermaid, fish, sushi, pirates. And at the end of it all, I've got this huge list of that goes with this image. And I say, okay, however, which one is the right word? And people are like, actually, they're all right. And I said, no, they can't be. There's got to be one word. And they're like, no, Sam, actually, they all represent the ocean. I said, but why is it that if I'm in a management role, I'm going to impose my word on you? And they're like, oh. And I said, my word is calm. Okay, serene, deep, blue, I can work with those people. But the person that saw pirates and mermaids, I'm sorry, we can't work together. And then I tell, why is it that the person who sees sand, pirates, or mermaids, why is it important for me to listen to them? And then they say, it's because they provide a different perspective that you may be missing. And I said, exactly. Those people are more detailed focused. I'm a very broad thinker, and they're going to give me a different perspective. And I think that as a management role, supervisory role, we may have an idea of what we believe is the right idea, the right perspective, the right thoughts, our truth. And oftentimes we're imposing that on people when in fact what we should do is say, well, tell me your thoughts. And then we learn from each other that way. And instead of imposing a perspective, but that ocean exercise, I think it really opens a lot of eyes for people to say, wow, okay, I get this. It's simple.
That's a great analogy. It's fantastic. It reminds me when you talk about the listening piece and a great book, The Humble Inquiry. I think it was Edgar Schein, is a great book. Any of our listeners, particularly in the safety field, it's a great book to listen for the things that aren't being said and understand a lot deeper than what's actually being said. Sam,
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
spoken before about mentorship programs, and I understand you've been you've mentored and coached thousands and thousands of people globally, and perhaps you could just share with us today, and
Yeah.
just some, I guess, for our listeners to differentiate between mentors and coaches, and then throwing the leadership piece in the middle.
Sure. Yeah. I think what's really important about oftentimes it's hard to discern between coaching and mentorship, but what I've found over the years that I've been doing both, coaching is where it's very inquiry based. So if somebody has no idea of the pathway and the journey, my role is to ask a lot of questions, to pull the answers out of them. And that becomes coaching. Once they have an idea that, yeah, this is the pathway, this is the career, this is the type of job that I think I would like, then I start flipping into what I call mentorship, which is more the guiding piece of the directional piece to let's get you where you need to go. So coaching is much more inquiry based. Mentorship is much more guiding based. And a mentor has all this tremendous experience. They've maneuvered through the pitfalls, the successes. They've got all of this experience that they want to share with somebody. And the thing is, there's not a mentorship store that you can go to and get a mentor, the right size, the right fit, whatever. It's all about finding somebody that you respect and admire, and whether it's in a particular industry, whether it's somebody that you've respected and admired because of the work they've done, they're always going to have something to share with you. And the idea behind getting a mentor and how valuable it is because, I've gone through the journey by myself. And this is why I'm a huge advocate of mentorship. There was nobody there when I was graduating from university that I could ask questions about. And I stumbled in the dark and, tried to find my way. And one thing I share, and the reason I do the mentorship is because of what I hold here, which are 86 letters. These 86 letters are the rejection letters I received after I graduated from university from companies who said, we don't have a job for you and good luck in your search. It made me realize that I was not prepared. So then I went, after going on my journey of getting these various positions and jobs and, leaving the corporate world to venture on my own, it made me realize that I've gained a lot of this knowledge, experience, and stories I need to share. So over the years, I've been doing 3 to 8 mentorship conversations a week. It's been about 22, 23 years. And I always say it's, maybe 42 weeks out of the year that it's 3 to 8 conversations a week. And Gary, I tell you, I am so rich because of the mentorship piece, and not from, yes, I've been able to help a lot of people, but just the knowledge and insight and the relationships that I've gained by having these tremendous individuals that I'm surrounded by, and I think that's really important, is this mentorship piece. But mentorship is also what I consider, like, if it's a mentorship program, sometimes it can feel like awkward dating because you're just being paired up with someone and all of a sudden it's like, okay, go and have conversations. I always believe that a mentorship program should have an orientation piece. Deliverables should be outlined. Also think of it this way, especially from a pairing standpoint. Is it a structured mentorship relationship or is it an organic one? So for me, it's organic. Like, in other words, a structured one would be where, I would say, Gary, send me your questions a week in advance. We're going to meet for 45 minutes every third Monday of the month, and then we'll talk for 45 minutes. Now, that's a structured program. For me, I like it organic. So let's say, Gary, what do you want to talk about today?
Yeah.
Well, Sam, I want to talk about, my career path. And then, maybe 2 days later, you contact me and said, Sam, you know what? I really resonated with what you said. Can we arrange another call? And I'd be like, sure. So I think organic, structured, it really based on the pair. If you are the mentee, the person who needs mentorship support, learn about your mentor. Like, what is it that they do and who they are? Learn about them. And as a mentor, the biggest danger is you coming into this relationship thinking, I'm going to save a soul and I'm going to, basically provide them a job. Because all too often I hear from mentors who say, I didn't have a great relationship. And I said, well, what happened? They said, well, I'm in the finance industry. I wanted to get a mentee that I could actually groom to get into this organization or a job. But the person they gave me actually had very bare minimum knowledge of finance, and it just didn't work out. And I said, but did you ask them what they were wanting, or did you just impose it? And he said, oh, yeah, actually, I think that's it. I didn't really ask what was important to them.
Yeah.
And the thing I also want to share, Gary, is some of the best mentors have nothing to do with the area of your experience or work. For example, I have nothing to do with finance. And oftentimes I'm given a finance student or a professional, and they go back to the organization and say, I think there's a mistake. This guy doesn't know anything about finance. And they're like, no, just trust me on this.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the relationship emerges. And then at the end of it all, they've been able to accomplish much.
Yeah.
And the final thing I'll leave on this mentorship for you is the mentorship relationship is, for me, it's ongoing. I'm still in touch with people 20 plus years ago. And it doesn't have to end. If you're in a structured program, it doesn't have to end at the end of the program. You can carry this relationship on, and you can have more than one mentor. It's not prescribed that you only have to have one mentor. You can have multiple mentors at the same time. It's not a problem. You also talked about leadership, and I'll just briefly touch on this subject because it's an interesting thing, because people come to me saying, Sam, I want to be a leader. And I'm like, okay, why did you come to me? And they're like, well, you're a leader. And I said, well, here's the thing. Leadership is not a position. Leadership is not a place. Leadership is a lifestyle. And the most important part is, if you're that person, you don't determine if you're a leader. The people around you determine if you are worthy of that title. And people miss that because they're striving to this thing called leadership, but just getting to that position doesn't mean you're a leader. And I'm a huge proponent of this term called followership. We spend 95% of our time focused on leadership, and nothing is done on followership, but the followers are the ones who make the leader. And followership is not what people believe to be blindly following like sheep. No, a follower is someone who's there to support and say, I'll challenge if I don't believe in your idea and work with you on this, not in a negative way, but equally I will support you where I can. But those are where I think we really need to also focus on followers and really hold them in such high regard.
Indeed. I read a book about followership, and the penny dropped for me. And when you associate it with leadership, and then all those great leaders that you think about, whether it's the coach of the best football team or whatever it is, you start piecing it together, going, yeah, they're not the guy standing there with the trophy doing that stuff. Sam, mindful of time, but just for our listeners listening out there now, I do come across a lot of people, and I actually think I posted something recently on LinkedIn about, for those of us, and I've been there, where you get to a point in your career and you're thinking, do I become the manager now or the executive now, or do I, where do I want to be? And we all sort of, I think we all sort of hit these sort of roadblocks sometimes. And I think having a mentor in your life could really, really well. And I love the fact you talk about the organic and the structured approach. I love the organic approach. My mentors and I have always worked organically, and I mightn't talk to him for 6 weeks, 8 weeks and then ring and then be on the phone every night of the week, right?
Yeah.
And I've been really, really fortunate. For those that are listening now that perhaps don't have a mentor in their, particularly in their professional career, what could be there? How do you go and find this great mentor?
Yeah. I mean, I think that LinkedIn is such a great resource and place because LinkedIn has people in all industries, whether it's professional, construction, trade, it doesn't matter, everybody. Look at the people on LinkedIn, whether you know them or not. I always say find 30 to 50 people that you respect and admire that you think, you know what, this person I could really learn from. You send them a note, but not the generic LinkedIn, hi Sam, can we connect? But instead something that's much more personal to say, Gary, I'm in Vancouver. I'm interested in safety area. I appreciate the space that you've created for this space. As someone who's just trying to learn about this, could we please connect? Now, if 2 out of 30 or 2 out of 50 of these people connect with you, that's huge. These are people you respect and admire. If they connect with you, be sure to follow up with them and say, thank you for accepting my invitation. I know you must be really busy, but is it possible for us to schedule a Zoom call or a meetup, depending on where they are, at your convenience, and see how that goes. I mean, if you get 0 out of 30, well, hey, look for 30 more people. There are millions of people on LinkedIn right now. And don't limit it to regional, national, international. I've had people reach out to me from, let's say, Florida, who said, I just happened upon your profile, and they were in the nonprofit sector, and they said, well, you've worked with about 45 nonprofits, and I think I could really learn from you. But they sent it as a professional note, and I said, you know what, that's a thoughtful note. Connected with them, and I said, what can I help you with? And then we had a conversation virtually as a result of that. So that's one avenue. The second avenue is, whether you're in the trades or whether you're a professional, there are all of these associations. There are Chamber of Commerces. Look at the associations in your particular area. And oftentimes they have a mentorship, either a mentorship program or something set up where you can learn and meet with people. And the other thing I just want to share is this term, because I think we bat around the idea of a networking piece. I actually don't like the word networking. I believe in relationship building. To me, networking sounds very transactional. Yeah. Relationship building is I'll talk to Gary, not because I need something out of him, and not because, I think he might have a job for me. I'll talk to Gary because, you know what, we've never talked before, and maybe he's got some interesting stories or ideas or thoughts, and you never know. Gary knows somebody that's in an area that I might be interested in and says, you know what, I think I got to connect the two of you. Always go into these either mentorship relationship, not looking for a job or expectations in that regard, but who am I going to talk to? And what am I going to gain, not from an economic standpoint, but from a more of a self-fulfillment standpoint of how I can become even better, stronger, better as an individual.
That's terrific. That's terrific advice. Sam, look, I'm really mindful of time now. We've run out of time. So I'd firstly like to thank you on behalf of the listeners for being here today. You've given us some great insight. I encourage my listeners, and you'll hear in the outro how to connect here with Sam. But I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I'd love to do a part 2, and I've never said that. So I'd love to do a part 2 with Sam at some point, mate. You've been really refreshing for us today. On behalf of everyone here in Australia, and we send our best to you guys over there in Vancouver.
Thank you. And all I will say is keep safe, keep well and keep strong, and we'll all get through this, and let's all care for each other.
Cool. Thanks very much, Sam. It's nice to meet you.